Okay.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming back for another episode with Modern Day Prophets. I'm your host, Dustin, and I wanted to introduce this person today because I ran across something that really spoke to me on Saturday on Facebook. And it was something, I don't even know how he came across my feed, but he just made me stop. And I listened to this video that he did, and it just spoke to me. It spoke to me because I could see like how much he was speaking from his heart. He was lit up in this, and I feel like he just had some major messages that all of us needed to hear. And so I'm here to welcome Dionta Gray. Thank you so much for being a guest on here. I don't even think you realize how just meeting you has elevated what I'm doing to the next level just by your influence. So I'm just really excited to have this conversation with you, and I'm excited for you to share some of the messages that resonated so much with me.
Yeah. I think that's great. I didn't even know that, so that's really cool. But I'm glad to be here. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for deciding to put this together and deciding to join in the voice of trying to change and understand each other. So no, thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Thank you too. Well, tell us a little bit about that video, because the intention behind it, from what you said, was you were speaking to 3 specific people. So tell us a little bit about like how that video started, why you wanted to get up, and what kind of caused you to stand up and speak out.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us can relate to this, but social media, it can be a good place to, express yourself and connect with your friends, but also it can also be something else. And I was getting to a point, because I live in a predominantly white area, a lot of my friends are white, and I was getting to a point where my views, I was starting to understand my views were not the same as my friends on issues that we're seeing and we're facing in the world right now. And I've noticed that it would cause arguments and disagreements, and I lost friends for it. And I felt like it made me take a step back and not want to open my mouth and say anything on these things, but they still happen to us every day.
Okay.
And I didn't know that the video would get as much attention as it did get. This was honestly there were 3 friends that mean the world to me that I just did not expect for them to not understand where I was coming from.
Okay.
And so this video was just put out there for them and anybody that was in my little circle of influence that also felt that same way. They didn't understand where I was coming from. So I made this video, and just speaking from the heart. It wasn't, thought about. There was nothing written down. It was just go with the flow, explain your heart, and it came from a very genuine, very real place. Because we're all looking on social media and we're all seeing this craziness unfold. And I've always been one to believe in be the change you want to see, and stand up for what you believe in. And so me putting up a video, especially because I'm jumping into real estate, you got to use your platform as a part of, your career. So I know that I was kind of contemplating, if I do this, I don't know what it's going to do to my platform and my future for real estate. I know it's going to make a lot of people mad, but I can't ignore this because I believe in it wholeheartedly. I'm seeing it in my family and my friends around me. We go through it, and I'm experiencing it myself. And I have friends that were with me that have been with me when these things have happened. So I I needed to stand up for what I knew was right. Um, and so I made this video, and the video was just saying like, I understand, uh, your side of the argument, the vandalism, the looting, uh, but I understand this side of the argument too. We're tired, we're fed up, uh, because and I because this is our everyday, and I think that was something that since putting that video out, a lot of people didn't know about Black people or people of color,
Hmm.
was that this is our normal. This is our everyday. It explained a lot um, about why we were reacting the way that we were.
Yeah.
But it also cleared some things up that people thought or assumed about Black people that were not true. So it opened up the door to have conversations that we don't normally have. I've been living in Granville for 8 years,
Okay.
and I have a lot of friends that live in this area. We do get-togethers, we do pool parties, the whole nine. And in the 8 years I've been friends with them, I don't think we've ever sat down and had a conversation about what it looks like to be Black. What do we go through, and what our everyday is. They know some of the struggles I've had because they've rallied behind me and helped me out from time to time.
Hmm.
But I don't think we've ever had that conversation, and it dawned on me that maybe we should. And when we started to, so after putting that video out, what happened was I got friends to reach out because they wanted to hear the conversation. They wanted to have that conversation because it said, hear me out, let's talk, right?
Right.
So they took me up on that. I got some calls, I got invites, um, and we had messages exchanged, whatnot. And it was opportunities to share with them what it looks like to be Black on a daily day basis. What do we go through? Um, for them to understand, and it changed the perspective that they had on Black people. They changed the perspective of how they saw what's going on in the world right now with the all the protests turned to riots. Um, why are we going at it with the police? Uh, and why are we so mad?
Yeah.
And why do we want things to change?
Well,
Um,
and tell everybody the story that you told in Facebook about living in Granville. So I know what Granville's like. I used to live in Granville, and have been witness to some of the experiences that you had. But tell them what happened, like when you found that dog.
well, okay, so I at the time was going to this this young adults group, and the night of the gathering, before it started, there was this dog that showed up to the church where this group was being held, and everybody's petting the dog. I think they tried to feed it. People were advising against it because the dog wouldn't leave then once you start feeding it. So sure enough, the dog is there. When we get out, it's probably like 10 o'clock or something like that, 9 or 10 o'clock. I think it was like 9. Anyway, so we get out there and the dog is out there and he's shivering and it started raining. Everybody's leaving. I live right next door.
Hmm.
We are not allowed to have pets, but I am a big animal lover. I mean, my family no, growing up in Detroit, I was the biggest animal lover.
Okay,
Uh, took
I
care
feel
of
your heart
every
there. I
animal.
am too.
Oh yeah, took care of every animal I came across. I found birds with broken wings. I tried to put splints on them. That was me. I was that kid, right?
Okay.
So there was no way in the world I would be able to go home knowing this dog is out there with nowhere to go and it's raining. So before I decided to go home, I uh, took the dog with me and I went up maybe 2 or 3 blocks and knocked on the door. Someone came to the door. I asked them, "Hey, do you recognize this dog? Do you know whose dog this is? Have you ever seen someone walk this dog through this neighborhood?" That's all. I tried to find the dog's home, and the dog looked healthy, it looked like he was being taken care of, and I just wanted to find the owner.
Hmm.
And I got to the end of the night. Everyone, either said no or didn't want to help. I got to the end of the night and I called the cops because I didn't know what else to do. And the cops were like, "Oh yeah, we know who you are." And I was like, "What? That really?" They said, "Yeah, we've been getting calls about you all night. People are concerned that there's a black man in that neighborhood, and they're worried that you're going to break and enter or cause harm." And I was so taken back. But again, it happened. Like people, if they don't know you, I don't know. I tried to make some understanding of it, but it
Yeah.
hurt. I'll say that much. It did hurt because I'm like, this is my neighborhood. Like that. That's one block up the street from where I live.
Yeah.
Literally, right up the street. And so I was taken back by that. The other story was I went to a park and just enjoyed the day, just like everybody else. And there's these benches there. It's probably like 4 benches. Two of the benches had food on it, looked like a gathering of some sort, and the other benches didn't have anything on it. So I sat on one bench at the corner, and there's these moms that were sitting on the other side of this long bench with kids running around. And so the moms get up and they move over to another bench, and they're like calling to the kids, "Come over here, sweetie. Come over here. Come sit over here." And I'm like, "What happened? Uh, what?" I mean, I didn't understand. Did I pose a threat? Do you guys feel nervous or scared, or just trying to understand why did you feel the need to do that?
Right.
Anytime I go for a walk in this area, in this neighborhood, and I know every black person will agree, we get stared at. That at least if you live in Grand Rapids, this will happen. You get stared at. You get stared at like you don't belong here. You get stared at like you're gonna cause somebody some harm, or you get stared at like you're an animal.
Yeah.
You know? And I got thick skin, and I let it bounce right off me, and I keep it moving. But it doesn't mean that that's okay. It doesn't mean that that doesn't hit you and affect you. Like why? What's the point of that? What's the point of that? The only difference between me and you is I was born with colored skin. I'm a person. I live here.
Yeah.
I pay my bills too.
Yeah.
So it began to become very frustrating, and I got very angry with living here. So I wanted to move. I'm telling you right now, on social media, I see my other brothers, people of color, mad, hate Grand Rapids, and they want to move. And they go through the same stuff. I've gotten a chance to have conversations with some of them earlier today.
Yeah.
They go through the same stuff, and it's hard to be okay with that. It's hard to do your everyday in that type of environment.
You
You go
know,
to try to do. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just what I was gonna say is with what you're talking about. I feel like maybe in some ways I've been underestimated because I'm a woman. My name has given me a little bit of a shield from that if people don't know me right up front because they assume that I'm a man because of my name.
Mhm.
But I don't think that there's ever been any like true discrimination there. And I think the first time that I really saw what you're talking about is I was working at the vitamin shop and there was this really cute young man that comes in. I've seen him several times and he's always coming from Planet Fitness. He looked to me like an MMA fighter coming in
Yeah.
sweats and like that kind of gear. And of course it's the vitamin shop. And, he walks in and this woman had walked in right before him and she was actually a woman of color too. And all of a sudden I see her whole demeanor change and she's just staring at this guy and he walks over and he's over in like one area of the supplements and she's just staring at him. And then she comes over and she like whispers over for me to like come over where she's at and she's like hiding behind this row. And I was like, what? Like, do you need something? And she just was like, you better watch him. And I'm like, who? I was like, what are you? And he actually had opened the door for her to come in. And so I was like, who are you? What? Like, what are you talking about? And she just is like, you got to watch him. And I just literally like, I didn't even know what to do. Like, I just couldn't even believe. And so she's literally walking out around the store, just staring at him. And he's got his headphones on. He's not paying any attention. And
Yeah.
I didn't know like if I missed something. And so, you know, she's like, can you walk me to my car? And her car literally is 5 feet out this glass building, you know, right in front of the building. And I'm like, walk you to your car? I'm like, what? It's daytime. Like, what? I just did not understand. And so when she actually ended up leaving, and I don't try to assume what she's been through or anything like that. But I walked up to him and I was like, hey, and I said hi. And I just noticed like when he came in, how nice it was that he had opened the door for her. Like he was smiling, he smiled at me. And I just said, you know, did you have any interaction with that woman outside at all? And he's like, what woman? I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. Like, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's like the one that came in, the one that I opened the door for. And I was like, yeah. And so we had talked about like what had just happened, and it wasn't
Mhm.
from a place to like make him feel bad or anything like that. But I literally did not get it.
Yeah. So here, I'll explain some things.
Okay.
Because I've also like come to understand some of this a little bit more with the conversations I've had the chance of having the last
Okay.
few days. It's people that have gone through something traumatic uh, tend to, after the experience, generalize that towards the group. So if me, let's say, one of my friends was attacked by two black people.
Okay.
They leave that experience believing all black people are like that. They stop seeing it as the individual encounter and start seeing it as generalized. They're all that way. And so we start to treat everyone different because of that. So let's say that you said this lady was a woman of color too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I don't know what happened to her in her life, but it could have been something happened to her in her life at some point in time, and she carries this scar,
Yeah.
and she has this guard up against black men in general. I don't know. I don't
Right.
know.
I didn't. Yeah.
But-
I didn't know either.
Right, but that's what I've seen. One of the conversations I had with a woman after this video had surfaced,
Hmm.
uh, that was that was a common thing I started seeing in this conversation was something happened to her for her to feel the way that she did and for her to be triggered by what was said in this video or triggered by what was said in this Facebook post. Um, and I think that that could be a part of what's wrong in the issue and what's going on in the protest, what's going on with one side not understanding the other side
Yeah.
because of what they've personally seen or experienced or heard from somebody else that they've experienced. So if the rumor is spread that black people are malicious animals, we are vicious, we are violent, and you are by yourself walking and there's a bunch of black people, you get scared.
Yeah. It
But
just that
that's in every black person, right?
yeah.
Same
Well, I
thing for
even witnessing that experience just it hurt my heart because this was a good person like that you know consciously nodded and acknowledged another person walking in and opened the door and you know and I just don't see enough of that. So this was just a good person and it just made my heart really sad that even expressing yourself in that way, you still can be taken so wrong.
it's just because they don't understand. You're not seeing, I mean, it's all about face value for the most part. We don't know each other. We don't have even opportunities or chances with our day-to-day schedule with run-ins, and when we see people, we don't have a chance to get to know that person.
Yeah.
So we have this generalized understanding of, we think that they're this way, but you heard, don't judge a book by its cover,
Right.
right?
Right.
That is on a bigger scale what's taking place here.
Yeah.
We don't understand each other. That's the issue. And I feel like if we had more conversations to understand each other, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have these generalized ideas of what we think the other race, the other sex, is thinking, or what we think their actions would be, or what type of person they are, without knowing them.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I think that that's a larger problem too, that I feel like we're taking, and not just in color. I think right now it's so amplified in color because it's been such a generalization for so long. Like the destruction and the vandalizing, like that's not the beginning result. That's the end result of
Mhm.
treatment over over centuries, and just it getting more and more generalized of I think what we're doing as people is we're looking at people and we're judging them by the worst of the behavior of some. And
Yeah.
I see this in color, I see this in different, all different races, classes.
Yeah.
We're just looking at the worst of the behaviors, and then like you said, we're generalizing that for the group of the people.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
to me, that's like a mindset that, and a perspective that we need to help people shift.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, what has been your experience with, and just so you guys know too, how he's really how Deonta's really influenced my life is because of meeting him and having a conversation with him. Like on Saturday, I went down to the protest and actually got to interview a lot of people. And then with how it started off peaceful, how it turned into, vandalizing and more destruction, and then going down there on Sunday, like what's been your experience through this?
Um, I was for the protest, just like a lot of people. I was not for the city being destroyed, though.
Yeah.
And I know some people had that on the agenda. I know that there was a group that planned to do that so that the protest would be seen a different way. But I was for the protest, and when I got down there, because we've all had our personal experiences with unfair treatment when dealing with the police. That is not saying every officer that is working with Grand Rapids Police Department feels the same way. That is not saying that every officer treats people of color and without dignity or uh, excessive force. That's not saying that. But I do believe that there are some that in the police force that do not follow the same methods as others,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that being said, we all had our reasons for being down there. When I got down there, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I saw Black people, white people, Asians, Hispanics. I mean, I saw it all. We were
Yeah.
all walking together, screaming the same names. It was dope to see people with different ethnicities want justice for George Floyd, want justice for I cannot remember that young man's name. Um,
That's okay.
but his faith was he didn't look like that when he got arrested, and so people were upset.
Yeah.
Before he got arrested, so people were upset, and people had their reasons in being down there. We wanted a change, and that's what we were coming together for. We wanted to change. We wanted the police department to see that all of these people agree and are coming together because something needs to change.
Yeah.
The agreement was that it was to remain peaceful. And that's what we saw until about 9 o'clock when we all started leaving and a different group showed up, along with some other young people. And they began to tear up the city. So all of us felt some type of way about it the next day.
Yeah.
We organized as best we could for people to come down and help clean up the city, help board up the windows, clean up the glass, the fires and all that other stuff, help with all the restoration as much as we could. While being down there, some people looked at us funny, um, maybe feeling like it was our fault because of the protests, not understanding. But I feel like it, how do I say this? We came up with a plan, I feel, with going down there to show that we don't want to be seen this way, one, and two, this is our city too, and we care about it too. Um, it brought some level of unity and understanding, and there were other people that were moved by the videos and the content that's been going about, and they were helping spread that word to get more people down there, to help with that. And I would love to have a conversation with police in Grand Rapids to hear us out, and us to hear them out. How are they taking it with everything that's going on? They have to put that badge on in the morning.
Yeah.
Come to work, put the uniform on, put the vest on, the helmet, and get out there.
Yeah.
How do they feel about it? Because I know there's some that their way of thinking is different from ours. So what we see from them isn't what should be seen.
Yeah.
And they don't think that what we're doing is justifiable.
Do
But
you
I
feel?
do.
Oh,
Go ahead.
do you feel like we're moving in the direction of that happening? Do you feel like, from what you've seen, is kind of the aftermath of this? Do you think that that's gonna be able to happen, like a conversation like that, like an honest conversation, or?
Well, I think so. Having a National Guard down there does not help, but I understand.
Yeah.
You want to prevent the riots from happening, the destruction from happening. So I get that part too.
Yeah.
And you don't want to repeat. You don't want to see the cops and the public fighting.
Yeah.
So I get that too. But there's also the freedom of protest that I see not being allowed because these people decided to ride off the back of a protest and make it violent.
Yeah.
And so it's like our right was taken away by an outside group, and now we're not even able to be down there. So I think that I think it falls in the line of where to go from here. I think it's a part of that conversation of where to go from here.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the governor; she's responding to it. Officials are responding to it, and I wonder. I want to believe that they are all in that same conversation, or that place of conversation is where to go. Where do we go from here? How do we find a resolve? And I would love to start to have that conversation, if that's possible. I know that there's when I saw you, there were some leaders that were all gathered around in that circle, in Rosa Parks Circle, and kind of sparked an idea. And so all day yesterday, a little bit today, I've been on the phone talking to those leaders.
Okay.
To try to set something up. Again, it's not to be. We don't know if we'll be able to do this or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth a try. I mean, it's dang sure worth a try.
Absolutely.
Well, but
change takes a vulnerability and willing to stand up and speak out.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say from a safer place, I guess, from my perspective, that there's not much violence that's going to happen if I speak out. There's not much. There's just a lot of areas that are safer for me, or for different people that aren't dealing with this racism right now, that don't have colored skin. And I think that anything that you do to come together in unity to have these honest conversations, like that's going to take vulnerability. And I think that that's what was so expressed by your video. You just opened yourself up to be vulnerable on your perspective of creating real change, not pointing blame, accepting responsibility for everyone's actions, for our own actions, and accepting that responsibility. And one of the best things I love that you talked about was taking a pause before reacting.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to think about it, because I mean, our emotions, we all got emotions going like crazy right now. A lot of people are angry, a lot of
Yeah.
people are hurt, but what do you do with that? Something I learned is your anger mixed with love creates passion. So your anger for what you're seeing, your love for your people,
Yeah.
your love for this nation should create a passion in you to
Absolutely.
want to see change, right? And
Absolutely.
I feel like because of that, it does create a opportunity for us to come together and find a resolve, because we're
Yeah.
sick of seeing what we're seeing, and we're sick of going through it. And there's people that we love and we care about that uh, are having their lives taken away, are being um, beat up in the process of going to jail, are being killed, are being mistreated, period.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side that is mad about what they're seeing from the protests, these cities being destroyed, all the money, that's
Yeah.
going to go into fixing those things.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. And but I think that for both sides, let it push you in a direction of, yeah, something has to change. Simply put, that should be something we should be able to come together and agree on.
Yeah.
Whether you're an officer or you're a person that just lives in that city, or you're a black person or a white person, something has to change.
Yeah.
Something has to change. Um, and I think that that would be a good foundation for us to be able to start this conversation, for us to be able to start these changes. Um, yeah.
No, you told me a little bit about your background, and this is something that I thought was just really, really interesting about what you said about conditioning, because I also think that a lot of what's been going on, with how we treat other people, even how we treat ourselves, is how we've been conditioned to do that. And what you talked a little bit about was going into the service. Tell us a little bit about the kind of conditioning, and you don't have to go into specifics, but tell us a little bit about the kind of conditioning that happened for you to come out a certain way.
Now, real quick, to just put this out there before I say, that does not mean brainwashing for anybody that sees it. There's no brainwashing that is taking place in the military training.
But
Um,
it's conditioning, your mental conditioning.
yes, yes, it is to show you what could happen if you hesitate, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
so
it also to get you, and this was also to get you to a result of doing what you need to do
in order to come home alive.
in order to come home alive. Absolutely.
Yep. So, school of infantry, I was infantry in the Marine Corp, and going through school of infantry, some of the training is out in the field, some of the training is in classrooms. And this was one of those days where we had a class, and we had to watch these videos of taken from the Taliban after catching them, whatever, at that point in time. But it was videos of our people being killed. It was videos of um, us dying before we get a chance to come home. I've seen guys getting on the Humvees, getting ready to come home, get on their 7 tons
Mhm.
to do the last ride back to their base so they can go home and then be taken out. And so it makes you upset. I mean, you have a whole slur of emotions. I went through almost every emotion I had:
Yeah.
fear, sad, anger, frustration. And I walked out of there knowing and believing that if it came to it, um, that I knew I would do what I needed to make sure my guys got home
Mhm.
and I got home. And so I don't know what and I'm not saying this to say that this is exactly what the same thing that the police go through, because I have no idea. I have
Right.
no idea. I've never
Right. I
even
don't
heard
either.
people. Yeah, I honestly have never even heard people talk about this
Yeah.
at all. Um, but I know um, that I just wonder. It made me wonder because I saw what it did to me. I didn't um, go in. I went in to that classroom not knowing if I could take somebody's life if I don't feel like they did anything wrong.
Right.
Um, and I came out with the mindset of like, if I feel like I'm in danger or my people are in danger,
Yeah.
we will do what we need to do to make sure
Yeah.
that we come home. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what is going on through these cops' minds when they are detaining people. I don't know what type of fears are running through their head. I don't know what their thoughts are
Yeah.
when you see somebody like Derek um, with his knee on George's neck. I don't know what's going through that man's mind. I
Right.
have no idea, and I can't see how that's justified for him to do that.
Right.
Um, but it does make me think and wonder, where are they getting this from?
Right. It makes you question.
Hmm.
Well, in one of the why I wanted you to kind of talk about that, and it was, I mean, any time that we get an opportunity to be able to see it from a different perspective than our own opens up opportunity and opens up possibility and opens up our limits, because it's not always, most of the time, it's not our way. It's not about us. It's about us together, but it's not about me.
Hmm.
So I think that when I've gotten to ask questions, so I'd go to Riverside Park a lot, and I met a lot of exchange students that were from Africa there, and I would ask them all different types of questions about, how they like to hear, what was the differences in family, just any questions that I could ask them. And it was interesting because almost everybody that I've asked that lives outside the country, one of their biggest differences that they see about the United States is how fear-based our media is.
Hmm.
And how, if we were to just listen to all of the media that's going on, and we were to watch it every day and listen to it and everything like that, it's super fear-based. And there's a lot of it that portrays that we're not safe in specific areas, that we're
Hmm.
not safe from certain people.
Hmm.
And that's just the messages that are behind it. Now, I I know that I choose to look for more perspectives, but I think that there's an element of conditioning that's going on in the country as well to all of us. And I think if the more that we can be curious about something and the more that we can question something that's from a different perspective, I think that that only gives us more understanding and more compassion to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
agree. I would say, we would love to see a change in the media. We would love to. They even took a stand for that. I saw that picture with the CNN sign.
yeah,
You had the Hispanic guy up there, you had the black guy and the white guy. The Hispanic guy was holding a sign that said, Black Lives Matter. The black guy was holding the Hispanic flag,
yeah,
and the white guy was holding up uh, a black, like the empowerment fist.
yeah,
Um, Choosing to send a symbol that we don't want this portray what you guys are portraying
yeah,
anymore. We don't want this fear. We don't want it.
yeah,
And then change needs to take place here too. So I would love to see a change in the media. How that happens, if it will happen, I have no idea.
It's
But
going
them
to take us
doing that,
all.
yeah, them doing that though shows the entire public,
Yeah.
we notice you guys are a part of the problem too. So just as we're fighting the police on change, we're fighting you guys too. Stop putting out bad narratives.
Yeah.
Stop putting out the bad pictures. Stop instilling fear. You guys are helping put a wedge between us for to be able to understand each other. You're putting this out there, and it's pushing us further apart.
Yeah. Well, fear
It,
is our most basic instinct that can be preyed upon,
yeah.
because it is so contagious, and it's so, I mean, just the social contagion that we've seen from COVID with the toilet paper, and I mean, that's all fear-based. Those are fear-based actions, and witnessing more fear-based actions, and then it becomes a contagion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we need to look at too is that as a society, the only reason why the media is doing that is because we're eating it up.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Yeah.
watching it.
Yeah, I feel like this was, I mean, the media, they've been doing this for years. They've been doing this
Oh
for so
yeah.
long, and this has just been always been their tactic. And so I remember growing up, first thing you do in the morning, what my parents did,
Mm-hmm.
turn the news on. We pay so much attention to it. And I feel like they use that to um, share a certain narrative from a certain point. We even saw, like, I think there was one time where they started to notice they choose to describe different action activities or events. They chose to describe them differently, even though they could have been the same. So let's say that I think it was in Lansing, their team won, or their hockey team, something like that, won.
Okay.
They set cars on fire. They had people out in the streets, blah 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 blah. It looked something out of what you saw in Minneapolis, right?
Okay. Okay.
But the way that they described it was a peaceful protest or celebrating. But then you go and you see another group of Black people going and doing a protest or something like that, and they were described as dangerous. They were described as, they just used a different choice of words
Yeah.
that instilled fear in upon what that event was, and
Yeah.
it instilled fear for people to fear this is what Black people are like. When in reality, that ain't true, and it's like that. They are not helping us find a solution.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
not.
and I
Yeah,
think
they're
I, I
dividing
think
us.
we all have that fear-based reaction. Like, we can all
Mhm.
have that fear-based reaction. Like, none of us are exempt from that. Now, that doesn't mean that we go there every time, but it's a basic nature. Our brains are hardwired for fear and fight and flight. And so I think how this ties into too is anything that you're watching, any content that you're consuming, to have that pause allows you to create space in yourself to handle that knee-jerk reaction,
Yeah.
and you work out that story within yourself before you immediately react from it, and then pretty soon your knee-jerk reaction is now kicking somebody down.
Hmm.
Where if when you take that pause and you're like, okay, wait, this just made me, like, I just watched that and that really scared me. Like,
Hmm.
okay. And then being able to take that pause and unpack it in myself and be like, okay, first off, is it even true?
Yeah.
That is one of the main things that I teach with people in whatever story they're telling themselves, because we're all storytellers, and it's whatever story we're telling ourselves, and we get carried away and our brains take us into all this worry and all this fear. And when you can disrupt that and you can stop and you can first just even ask yourself the question, like, is it true?
Hmm.
Like, that can disrupt something. And then when it's a no, it's not even true, or I don't know, I don't have enough information, I don't know yet if it's true. So then either taking a proactive step to gain more information about it, if you're on the intention of having to prove it true, or
Mhm.
just allowing yourself to be like, hey, that was just a fear. That's not me. And it's not even true. And then how can you come from a reaction of truth
Mhm.
and having that, or having that love reaction even? So
Um, yeah.
do you think that with what you've seen in all the conversations that you've been in and what you guys are putting together, um, are like, if you could tell people, because what I keep seeing is I keep seeing people say they, and every time I like, oh well, they need to get this or they need to do that, or when it's put outside of them, I feel like people are putting it too big, that they're unsure of how they could play a positive part in this, how they could play a helpful part in this. And so as you're talking to all of these individuals, and as this podcast goes out, like, how is it in individuals, like, what can we do right now to help with this, to be helpful in this?
Um, I've been telling people with your realm of influence,
Mhm.
um, change your narrative. And I just know from personal experience, from meeting people who saw Black people differently, um, their mind, like, I can understand that they didn't understand um, Black people.
Okay.
So from that, it changed their mind.
Hmm.
Cause I'm not some vicious savage that's gonna come and like cause you harm, you know. I'm a nice person, and I aim to be a nice person, be the change you want to be in the world. I live by that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of violence in the world, and not enough good role models, not enough positivity, and I aim to be that type of person.
Yeah.
So when you meet me, oftentimes that's what you're met with. I'm gonna get angry just like anybody else, and I got my angry side just like everybody else. But I aim for that, you know. And I think that from an experience, you find a different uh, truth than what you were told, or what you thought you knew, or a different experience than what you thought you knew. And so I would tell people that say, "What can we do?" Um, Ask questions. Again, you ask questions. If you don't know, don't just assume. Uh, or don't just regurgitate what you've heard but from someone else, right? And then once you do start to understand, or once you do start to see things differently, don't just allow the wrong narrative to continue to go in your circle of influence. Share, have those conversations with the people around you, because a lot of the times it could be like the couple friends that I've talked to, they had something happen to them. That's why they feel the way that they do.
Yeah.
Or this is all they've seen and known. They had no idea Black people were going through what they were going through. And so from them, they're seeing it with fresh eyes. They're seeing like, why Black people acting like this? Because you had no idea that we were going through something every single day. You had no idea in almost everything that we do, we put our hands into. There is a difference in how we're treated versus how someone who is not Black or of color is treated. That isn't is not taken lightly. It is a heavy load, and we get tired. And so there's a lot that I feel people don't understand. And I think that those conversations, if people chose to have those conversations when they see uh, the wrong narrative put out there, I think that that will start to change things. I feel like that's what people can do. They can help us send out the right message. And again, I'm thinking about how Martin Luther King went about things.
Hmm.
Rosa Parks stood her ground. Malcolm X was so smart and stood his ground and
Yeah.
fought this too. And now it's our turn. Now it's our turn. And it's not just Black people fighting for this. We're fighting for unity,
Yeah.
period. We're fighting for unity. We're fighting for equal treatment, justice, period, for everybody. So everybody is a part of it. So
Yeah.
if everybody was doing their part in making sure that they share the right narrative and making sure that they're having these conversations to try to understand with somebody who does not look like them, you know, or having these conversations amongst each other
Yeah.
to make sure that we're not instilling fear in each other, to make sure we're not putting out the wrong or false content on others. Same thing for us. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody.
I think that's a
If,
great personal responsibility and accountability.
for real.
Um, because we're so designed to want to observe and report. That's what our
Hmm.
brains do.
Hmm.
And so taking in all of this media now and content and conversations, like we engage more in this in a day than we used to in an entire year. we,
Yeah, but that's the crazy thing is like that's our everyday.
yeah,
That's our everyday,
yeah,
you know? And so um I'm glad that the doors have been open. I'm glad that things have come to the surface. I do not wish for anybody to get hurt throughout this entire thing. I do not wish for all of these businesses to burn the way that they do. But I do wish for us to do something about it. I saw another video where there was a guy who's in his 40s and he said, "I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. We didn't try it the peaceful way."
yeah,
Yeah, and uh, the violence is not going to get us nothing but more violence.
right,
So I think that trying to understand is a solution. Coming up with a different way is a solution. Um, and if we can stop wrong narratives, bad narratives, i.e., the news or uh, even the people around us,
hmm,
we have a chance. We
yeah,
have a better chance. If we can get officials or people in these positions to be the change that they want to see in the world,
yeah,
you sick of seeing corrupt politics, go get in politics. If you're sick of seeing corrupt police officers, go be a police officer. I'm even
absolutely,
thinking about it, right?
yeah,
If you think about making change and what will change and what you can do, become a part of the solution.
absolutely.
You know?
That's where, I mean, that's where this podcast started, is, you know, being so, for me, getting so fed up with all of these channels of negativity, all of these channels of fear. The only way to combat that is to stand up and do something about it. So,
Hmm.
you know, I didn't know I was going to start a podcast. I didn't know on Saturday I was going to be down interviewing people, but you make the
Yeah.
commitment in your life to stand for something.
Right.
And then you go all in on it.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
do you feel like, not just from this situation, but there was a force in you, a beautiful force of light that came through you in this video? Do you feel like you've tapped into a new spark, like you've created a new, like this has created a new spark in you, um that's much more like, that's willing to put themselves out there more? And
Yeah. Yep. Because I think that I was scared to death to put out the wrong narrative. I was scared to death of what my family would think. I was scared to death of what my friends would think, the people around me. But I cannot shake this, what I'm seeing. I always knew I loved unity. I headed up an organization called United, and it was to try to create unity.
right,
Um, and so I've always seen the ugly in disunity, and I've always been passionate about it. So I feel like this is something that's been like in me for a long time.
hmm,
I think that what I've been seeing in the world put me in a position that either I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, or I'm not going to stand at all. That's what I kept hearing. You stand up for what you believe in, or don't stand at all.
yeah,
And it's for me, that's a big deal. What kind of person do I want to be in the world? Am I part of the solution? or am I standing by and watching the world burn? That also came across my heart.
Yeah.
And so um, that's very important to me. And I feel like, yeah, it did spark something in me. It sparked something in me. It woke something up in me. And I still feel like I'm learning a lot as I go. As I go, all of this is new for a lot of us. None of us
Yeah.
have faced a global pandemic like this, you know,
Yeah.
and to see it impact neighborhoods and people, Black people and people of color, the way that it has been, it sparked something in me. Seeing the injustice in the police force,
Yeah.
seeing the division, seeing what it was doing to Black people, walking around with these scars and hurt, can't talk about it because as soon as you do, the world is coming down on
Yeah.
you. And then seeing the wrong narrative being shared out there to the world through media, and then seeing people of different ethnicities having the wrong narrative or understanding on somebody that doesn't look like them. So I hate living in a world like that.
Yeah.
I hate living in a world like that. I had a conversation with one of my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
He's a dad now. We used to be kids. Now he's a dad, and he hates bringing his kids up in a world like that.
Yeah.
You know, so something has got to change. Either we gonna stand for what we believe in and fight for change, or we ain't gonna stand at all, and it's just gonna continue to go on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, yeah, it sparked something in me, and I'm happy about it. Um, and at the same time, I'm going through it too. I'm
Yeah.
going through it too.
Well,
Not
and
everybody
I
agrees
wanted
with
to,
my views and what I'm saying. A lot of people, I mean, some people don't agree with that, and you have to face those opposing views and actions too.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I believe in what I said, and I believe in making this stand. You know.
Well, and one of the things, first off, I'm going to post this video, or I'm going to see if I can get a link of the video to the description of the podcast. Because if you guys get a chance, I want you to watch this Facebook post. If not, I'll send you to the video in some way. But one thing that was completely that you don't see in every single person, like I saw your values when you were speaking. I saw your value of unity. Like you weren't speaking about it, like you were living it, you were experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a culture, we've been very good at staying in the superficial. We've been really good at staying in the ego, and we've been really good at staying in the just the superficial part of it. And I think as
Yeah.
human beings, we're just meant for so much more, that in order to let go of some of these egotistical things, and like we have to have a guiding light through that. And to me, what's shining through that is like values and principles, and we need to create this kind of a culture that has those, because
Mm-hmm.
when you're sitting there and you're talking about these things, like it's coming straight from your heart, the values that you believe in. And because those values are so strong in you, and because they're calling to you so much, you're standing up in a way that by you doing that, it's already creating change. So you're already like in it. You're already, experiencing that. And I work with a lot of people that want to do that in business, and that are trying to do that in their businesses. And so they tap into that passion, and they feel that calling, and then they have this idea that somehow, some way, that God is not going to give them their next lesson, because and by doing that, you open yourself up, you open your heart up to being completely vulnerable to God's timing and God's lessons. And
Yeah.
when you do that, you get tested. And so I know, like, tell us a little bit about your tests that are going on right now, and kind of some of the realizations that you came to, because we were talking about that beforehand. And in those places where you realize you just asked for something.
Yeah. Yeah. I with all of this happening, watching the world respond to the police brutality myself. I've gotten into arguments with friends over certain topics and things. I started to look at myself and not like what I was seeing, because I know that's not who I wanted to be. So I'm a Christian. I'm a firm believer in God and Jesus. And I had just said this little prayer coming out of work, having a hard day at work, coming out of work, just like, God, I'm praying for more patience, uh, and helping. I'm praying for help with the anxiety and the frustration with what is going on in the world. And so I'm praying for you to help me get through this, these feelings.
Yeah.
And then I immediately retracted it, because if, like, just like anybody else, sometimes when you ask God for stuff or you pray to God for stuff, He'll give you opportunities and situations for you to be able to exercise.
That muscle.
So I was like, you know what? Nope, never mind, God. Nope, I'm good. I got in the car talking to my buddies from work. And they all know what piece of crap car I'm driving, right? But I love Esmeralda. Okay, put that out there. Love this car, but this car is on its last leg, and they all know. And I've been fighting with this car for probably a year and a half, and they all know. So we all cracking jokes about the car, or not cracking jokes, but just, when you getting a new one? And I'm like, I don't know. Eventually, I'm trying to get one now, and this one's just gotta last me a little bit longer. I get in the car to come home right after just saying, like, God, I'm praying for more patience and help me get through frustration and this anxiety. And this dang on car breaks down on the way home. And I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. So I get off the highway, driving it. The car's trying to overheat, and I park the car. I lift up the hood, the entire belt, it just fell apart. I'm like, what? Um, and I call my buddy. He's like, yeah, that car is pretty much gone. I'm like, the fact that it still decided it was going to drive for long enough for me to get off the highway and stuff, that in of itself, I'm grateful for.
Absolutely.
And so I had some friends, after seeing the video, we had a conversation, and they wanted to see where I was at and what was going on, just try to catch up.
Yeah.
They decided they wanted to bless me, and they gave me this envelope and had X amount in there of funds to go towards a new car. And within me getting home and going to work and getting out of work, that envelope disappeared. I've been furious about it. All kind of emotions. I'm mad at God, like the whole nine, right?
All those knee-jerk reactions.
Oh my gosh! First, I tore the house apart. Tore the house apart. Tore my car apart. Tore the house apart again. The whole nine. Like, I just went from A to B, and it didn't make sense that this thing just all of a sudden disappeared. It didn't. I'm still mad about it. But somebody reached out. They didn't know anything about the envelope, these funds that was in this envelope, and they felt it on their heart to send me something. And when I went to go look at it, it was the exact same amount that I lost. And I called them, and we had a long conversation about it, and took it as a blessing. And at the same time, it kind of pointed out that, like, yeah, I'm going and I'm a part of all of this fight for change and things like that. I myself am still going through it. I'm frustrated. Like, right when I get off of this, I'm going to the bank, try to figure some stuff out with them. And But it is not easy. And I will tell you right now that the other side of it, seeing protests, or not seeing protests, but like living in this day and age right now with what's going on, it's not easy. It is not easy. It is a blow. It hurts every time you see the injustice. It hurts every time you see somebody wrongfully accused. It hurts every time you see somebody wrongfully murdered.
Yeah.
And it takes a blow and a toll on you. I'm tired. And I'm pretty sure any and every other Black person or leader, whatever, we will tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
We are tired. Um, and life is taking its toll. I will say that much. But I just feel like it's still gonna be okay. There's lessons to be learned. There's opportunities to be stretched and grow. I
Well,
obviously will learn some things from this too. But
and whatever you believe in, with your beliefs, with my beliefs about, God or Jesus Christ or the universe or however spirit, however you want to call it, whatever your belief is with that, literally your belief came back around and showed you it was going to be okay. Like, I mean, you asked for this lesson and you asked for this strength and maybe that's not how it was asked. But we test out our
no,
strength.
I'm like, why can't you just like increase my like, why can't it just like, you ask and it's just bam, all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I can
Better.
tolerate more. There's
Yeah.
gotta be the opportunity to be stretched and grown. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I hope that the people that are listening to, like, that he's not just like, it's not just him that happens to. Like, when you put your trust out there and you put your heart out there um in God and in a higher power and in a faith of trust, it literally shows up. It may not show up in the exact way, but literally the universe wanted you to know exactly who that was from and just said, we're going to even have it show up for you in the same way, in the same amount, just to show you I got your back.
yeah, yeah. That part caught me off guard completely. Caught me off guard.
Well, because God needs you to be strong. God needs you to stand up. God needs us to stand up. And I have no idea the amount of strength and resilience it takes to go through your life every day and be judged and scrutinized that much.
Yeah,
I
it
can't.
doesn't it definitely doesn't ease the burden. That's for
No.
sure.
And I think it's just built your strength. And I think even with asking for the strength to get through these things and the lessons that you're going through right now, that this is just, first off, God's trying to fill your cup.
Yeah.
God is trying to fill your cup, but in that, he's also showing you that he does have he does have your back.
Hmm.
And I hope that everybody listening to this too, let that fuel you in your influence, let that fuel you in your calling, in your direction, like what you're being called to do right now, because it's not easy.
Yeah.
You get knocked down a lot. and
Yeah.
especially I feel like when you tap into that passion and you tap into that purpose and you tap into that calling, like, that is actually usually the next thing is you're given another lesson to
Yeah.
build those
Yeah.
strengths because you're going
For
to need
real.
it.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, I'm grateful. I'm still calm, cool, and collected um, throughout this, and I'm grateful for still being able to move forward. And that was something that I learned too, was as much as physical things will happen at and around you, I just felt like it was all temporary still. You somehow make it through it.
Yeah.
You somehow make it through these things that take place. around you. Now, again, in all cases, I know that's not true,
Yeah.
because a life cannot be given back once it's taken. But to that extent, the just other things that we go through in our life, uh, my motto was always, if I'm still breathing air, um, and I'm still able to continue to move forward, wake up and go about the next day, then whatever it is that I'm facing,
Hmm.
it's gonna work out. It's gonna be okay. Um, so yeah, there's definitely lessons to learn in the midst of what we're going through, and it's definitely things that will make us stronger,
Yeah.
um, in the process too.
Well,
So
and I hope that your video continues to get more and more views and just extend the reach on that. But I also hope that whatever, and you know that I'll be a part of however you need me to be a part. You can, my platform is your platform. We've got more interviews coming up with some more people that I met actually down there on Saturday, that have something to say and need a platform to say it on. And
mhm,
I saw their values, I heard their messages. And
mhm,
I think, one of the podcasts that just put together was you guys, the before messages on Saturday, before it turned into something more destructive. What were the messages? Why were the reasons people were standing down there? All different types of people, all different
yeah,
types of people for all different reasons, what they were standing for, and what a better message we could carry forward would be. And then having to witness Saturday night, seeing how everything went destructive, and then going down there on Sunday and interviewing anyone from my youngest that I interviewed, he was 6 years old, to I think in their 60s, and all different walks of life. There was an open gang member in there to a child that was passing out water, all different
mhm,
colors. Because
yeah,
I think one of the biggest things too is that, with those messages, how you spoke up and spoke out, I didn't want those messages to get lost in that. And
mhm,
I think that you've got so many of those messages, so many of those little things, that I feel like as much as you guys can share this, as much as you can comment, as much as you can reach out to either me or Dionta, like to stand up for something, to start that conversation, to open up the door to, asking, how can I be a part of the solution?
mhm,
Because if we can do that and we can get more people questioning that, like those messages that you're speaking out about, that speak to the human,
mhm,
that speak to the human heart, can just get amplified. Like we can start amplifying those messages, and not the fear-based ones, and not the ones that are bias-based.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Just so we're going to start wrapping up here, but what do you think has been the biggest thing that has helped you get through? Because not only have you had, bias against you, I'm sure, your entire life for the color of your skin, you also went into an organization like the Marines, where there was a lot of different kind of conditioning going on. I
Mhm.
can't even imagine what you had to step into to get to do a Marine. Like, I never want to know, and thank you so much for your service, because
Right, thank you. They
I
always
would
say you're
crumble.
gonna do it.
Like
You're gonna do the
I
best
would
thing for your
crumble.
life, and yeah.
But the ability, the resilience, all of the things that you're building in your life right now, what do you think the biggest thing that has gotten you through that?
Oh man, let me think about it.
I know that's a big question.
No, yeah. I mean, one thing that gets me through the day is, because you can easily get overwhelmed with all the things that are happening in your life.
Hmm.
I mean, that's so easy to get caught up in right now.
Yeah.
Look at the U.S. Look at the
Yeah.
world. You got a lot of different things happening, uh, at once. And for me, when all those type of things happen personally in my life, I always say one thing. Take one thing. I know you got many things on your plate, but take one thing at a time, one day at a time, and you do what you can with what you have. Um, that's something that keeps me going. I don't know how to give up. That's my blessing and a curse. I do not know how to give up.
Yeah.
And if I see a problem, I can't stop seeing it. And somebody gave me this piece of paper years ago. It's still sitting in my living room. But it said the problems you notice the most are clues to what God has called you to help solve. And I can't stop seeing that either. So I
That is
know my
truth.
yeah. I mean I feel like my piece that I carry is unity. I want it. I can't stop seeing it, and I hate when I see disunity.
Yeah.
Um, and it started with seeing so many issues and problems, and the difference in how we're treated, to uh, the segregation, all of it, the injustice. I mean, everything. But they say that the problems you notice the most are clues to what God has called you to help solve, whether you believe in God or not. But just pay attention to that, and again, that anger and love, it shows your passion.
Yeah.
What are you angry about? What do you love? Um, and it oftentimes gives you a clue what you're passionate about. And for me, if I'm gonna live my everyday, then I'm gonna do what I can with what I have to make it through the obstacles that are gonna get in my way for me to live that everyday that I dream to see. Um, if I'm fighting for change, I'm gonna do what I can with what I have uh, to see that change happen. Um, yeah, so it's honestly the ability to try not to get overwhelmed
Yeah.
with
Well,
what all you got going on in your life.
you broke
Um,
that down in a very, very simple way. And I think that that's going to be super helpful to people because it's not anything outside of you and it's not this gigantic thing that we can't conquer. It's literally broken down the next step in front of you.
mhm.
And I think being able to the way that you just put that and being able to break that down, that gets you through your moment in
Mhm.
the best way possible. Like
Yeah,
you're
so
setting yourself up to win and not setting yourself up to and when I say win or lose, I don't mean failures, but I mean like you're either helpful to yourself or you're hurtful to yourself. And so
yeah,
when you break it down like that, you're being helpful to yourself to actually accomplish those things.
yeah. So like for example, we got the National Guard patrolling our streets. Nobody's happy about it. Some people are happy about it. That's cool. You got it's in other words, it shows that the issue's been escalated. So you got the National Guard patrolling the streets. You got people still in jail from protesting. You have um, the injustice or the abuse of people when they're taken into custody. You have a lot of different issues going on. You have a president that's not really trying to step in and help with these personal issues and or de-escalate these personal issues.
Yeah.
And you have a pandemic happening in the midst of all of it. There's a lot of things going on at once. And so with all of that, what's the first step that we can take? And then what's the next? Like you teach a baby one step
Yeah.
at a time, one step at a time. So what's one step towards a resolution? What's the first step? And then if and when you figure out how to do the first step,
Mhm.
what happens next after that? And you can come up with a plan. You can
Yeah.
come up with a plan. You can gain ground. You can come to an understanding. You can change things that way.
Yeah.
But I think not trying to take it all at once
Yeah. Well, and
is
I think you gave everybody broken down two very amazing next steps that you can, next steps that you can do personally. And this is what I teach people. This is what I teach people how to get there is understanding your narrative and ask questions.
yeah.
Like those are two big things because if you understand where you're coming from and you start to ask questions about it, it opens up. And I would even say, asking better questions.
Yeah.
It's the elevating your questions that will get you to elevated results.
Hmm.
And that's something that everybody can do.
Yeah. I think so. And I mean, again, another part of the issue is, I mean, we have people that just generally don't have others' well-being in mind on both sides of the party, on
Yeah,
both sides. And so we have to do all that in the midst. And while we have people that don't agree with these views,
yeah,
people that will not try to do this, or don't have the patience to try to do it this way.
yeah,
Um, but don't let that stop you.
yeah,
I would say that much too. Don't let it stop you, yourself, personally,
yeah,
because you can change one person. You can change one thing,
yeah.
and that's one less problem or issue we have. If more people are starting to understand each other they didn't understand or know,
Hmm.
that's that many less people with the wrong idea,
Absolutely,
um, and not judging or
absolutely.
whatever you would say, or call
Yeah.
it. So, yeah, yeah.
Well, and another big takeaway that we could see from this is look at, when I was standing downtown on Sunday and everybody was building, and there were some people, like, there were so many people down there willing to help in some sort of way.
Oh yeah,
And
that was a clean hand.
if you just look at how much the ability of one has for impact, like the ability of one can be so impactful,
Yeah.
and so when you're listening to something like this, you guys remember that, remember our ability to impact, because we witness that impact. We can see it in a helpful way and we can see it in a hurtful way, but even if you just want to start there and start asking yourself and looking at those things that bother you and make you uncomfortable, and asking yourself, do you want to become part of the change? Do you want to how do you want to become part of the change? And then coming together, because we live in a very, like, again, going back to, we're living in a very egotistical society where I think independence has gotten in the way of our ability to come together as family.
Hmm.
And we're not, one of us is going to be able to do everything on our own. And so if you're finding yourself in that place, and in these messages that we're talking about and these conversations that we're talking about resonate with you, then reach out to us and join a community. Let's come together. Let's start playing to our strengths to be for that change.
Hmm.
Be for the change personally in ourselves as we build our values and evolve in our principles, but also coming together and realizing that there's such power in that.
Yeah.
And it starts with us. It starts with you, and it starts with me, and it starts to whoever's listening to this. It starts with you.
Hmm.
And
Agreed.
I know after having a couple conversations with you now, I can see just also how humble your heart is, and feel like how much is in there to speak out. Like I can feel that straight up from you. And I hope that however you go forward from here, I can't wait to see what messages continue to come.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm excited to grow. I'm excited to see what happens too. It's all a new journey for me.
Yeah.
And just remaining a big-hearted person in the midst of all of it is important, and not allowing myself to get caught up in the anger and the rage and whatnot. But just, I mean, we are human. We are
Yeah.
human. We all can have those emotions and stuff.
Absolutely.
And I've been through some stuff. So I think it's important to try to do your best to steer this in a positive direction.
Yeah.
Because I've seen what violence and taking the violent route can do, and it don't go nowhere to a resolve at all.
Yeah.
So it's important, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the opportunity
Yeah.
to
Absolutely.
share and express how I feel, and I believe in what you're doing. Keep doing it. Definitely keep doing it, and keep pursuing and what you believe in. Keep
Yeah.
pursuing what your gifts are and what you have on the table to work with.
Well, and much
Um,
like you, I don't have the spirit in me to quit.
yeah, and especially you look out your door. Nobody should be giving up and quitting.
Yeah.
Um, we
Well,
really can't afford to.
yeah, I just it's that's why I think that quote resonated with me so much too, is because even from the time that I can remember that I was aware as a child, I was never able to not see the problems, not look at
Mhm.
those things that required some sort of action or change.
Mhm.
And even when I've tried in my life to maybe dumb that down or dull that light, or because I've been through it too, but even when I've tried to ignore that in my life, it's not happening. It just won't happen. I don't have a spirit in me to quit. So, and look where it's led me though, and look where, and I think that that's, you guys, if we can really get this across, like when you take that first step in faith because you want to stand for something, the way opens up.
Yeah,
It
very true.
opens up, and you don't have to know 10 steps ahead of you. You don't have to know how you're going to get there. You just have to take that first step in faith. And
Yeah.
I also want anybody that this resonates with, how can we best support you?
Um, I do not know how to answer that. uh, I think do the best you can to send the right message.
Okay.
Send the right message. Do the best you can to send the right message. Um, don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution.
Now,
Uh,
is there social media that can we go? Can I direct people to your social media? Is there an organization or something, like if people take this and they want to get involved in a way that they want to be part of this movement,
mhm.
where's the best way to direct them? Is that directly to you?
I mean, yeah, a lot. I've gotten a lot of people shoot me some messages,
Okay.
phone calls. I've been talking to people from all over the
Okay.
place. Um, and I'm humble and appreciate the reach, to be honest, and how far the video even reached. Uh, if people want to have conversations, let's have conversations about what they can do with where they're at, what they have on their plate, what they have in their hands, for sure.
Okay.
Uh, there's a lot of organizations that I feel like are doing what they can. Some of them, again, it was hard for anybody to do anything uh, because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But with the pandemic lifting soon, or the stay-at-home order lifting soon, I think that uh, more of these organizations are going to start to get involved.
Okay.
Uh, we'll see. We'll
Okay.
see. But I would say, you got the protesters. You have just try to send out the right narrative. For now, that's all we can do. Right now is just try to stop the race wars, to try to stop the argument of left versus right. Send the
Yeah.
right narrative. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
definitely.
and you guys too, you can always reach out to me. My contact information will be on there as well. I'm definitely Dionta has definitely become part of my tribe for sure, just because his values and messages I wholeheartedly support. So and as he kind of evolves through this, there may be other things that start to speak to his heart about um groups or communities or places that we can go to that maybe have more numbers, as we all evolve kind of through this. So you can stay tuned for that too. And if we need to, Dionta, we can also do another podcast at any time as
Ooh,
well.
yeah,
If there's
yeah, yeah,
if there's something else that's speaking to you, or you need people's support in a specific way, because I want to be able to support you, and I want this audience, if they want to be able to support you too, to be able to direct them in the best way.
yeah. Tell me if y'all think I should become a cop. That's going through my mind. I'm becoming a real estate agent at this point in time. I'm excited about that. Feel like
Yeah.
it fits me.
Okay.
Uh, but I also want to make a difference with in my community, and using whatever platform you have correctly to me is important. So, but yeah,
Well,
just
when you get your real estate stuff, you send that to me too, and also I'll support you with that and put that on here too. So,
hey, I appreciate it.
what a good journey. Well, I can't even tell you. I'm so blessed to be able to have met you and to now have had a few conversations with you. And like I said, just by you guys, I want you to understand the power of connection, because I have no idea how he got across my feed, but he got across my feed. I noticed something, took action. He showed up. He offered me a chance to experience something new downtown. And because of that, you guys, there have been multiple ripple effects that are going on from just his and I's connection. So we may still be having to rely on social media for more of our connection, but I want you guys to know that it's something that you can use to build genuine connection. You
True,
know,
very true.
yeah, and so I mean, just really look at that too, because I know, especially if you're by yourself and you've been more cut off, loneliness can set in, for sure. And it can seem like social media is not a good way to build connection, but used in the right ways, it can be. So I hope you
I
guys
would,
see that ripple effect.
yeah, I would say this, y'all. From seeing all the arguments, if another way that y'all can help, um, I think we all have been witnessing and experiencing, and we all should know that text messages only go so far. Those can be taken out of context. Same thing with posts; they can be taken out of context. There's a lot of arguing going on social media. Call somebody. I've been doing that a lot. I've gotten so far with it. There's been so many arguments that has started on Facebook, and I just shoot that person a personal message, or I decide to call that person on
Yeah.
Facebook and
That
have a
was
conversation.
that was
And
one of the biggest things that I loved about what you did. Is so I reached out to him. We had like one or two sentences on Messenger. We kind of made sure, like, beforehand, like, we just made sure as people that, like, what we resonated with about what we saw, like what we resonated with about our values. And I think, like, within that, like, you were on the phone and called me, and I'm like, oh my God, because I love conversation, but lots of people are afraid to pick up the phone. Lots of people are afraid to call people. And so I really respected that you did that too.
mhm, mhm. Definitely, I know we all got our fears, but
Yeah.
I mean, we all been cooped up in the house too,
Yeah.
so everybody's amped for connection. I've always been that way since day one. I would prefer a conversation to talk to somebody versus the
Yeah.
text because it can be taken the wrong way, and it
Yeah.
just limits that opportunity for that to happen
Yeah.
because they can hear you. Um, and yeah, well, my thumbs hurt. So yeah, I would prefer a conversation over the text. But I think that yeah, more conversations should take place because it changes things. So
It just
yeah,
reminds me so much of maybe conversations that went awry through texting and messaging, and even myself personally having those moments where I'm like, man, I just can't believe they said that, and then something registers, and I'm like, wait, because I can read the tone of voice through
I
text.
know.
I'm like,
Yeah,
no, 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 no,
yeah.
no. Stop the crazy brain. Come back.
Hmm.
Like, what is your story that you're telling yourself right now? And I'm like, you have no idea what the tone of that is. Like, just, again, pick up the phone, have a deeper conversation about it, because we just make a lot of silly assumptions about texting and reading and going back and forth on social media. We make a lot of
Yeah.
assumptions.
Mhm. Yeah, well, again, I thank you for the opportunity to express my thoughts uh, and be a part of trying to change things,
Yeah.
spread the word of changing things. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, and I appreciate your spark. I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate what's gonna unfold from here for you. And yeah, I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to be a part of it. And I'm telling you guys, you definitely want to engage with this person. He definitely engages with life in a way that's inspiring. So like I said, I'll have everybody's contact information there, and yeah, you can become part of the solution with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.